Hello, YouTubers. Welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing well. My name is Matt the Optimist, by the way. I messed up on that one, and I've been wanting to talk about this for a while. It's called coach abuse. When I started watching the Friday Night Lights series, the first season on Hulu, I've been noticing there's a lot that this coach has treated the athletes. He was verbally abusive, emotionally, all because the athletes weren't winning or making no big deal mistakes during practice. And he called them babies, whiners, and he was also judging them really harshly. And he looks at them like they're messing up on purpose. And he says that mistakes are not acceptable. He wants perfection. It's just the problem with the series. I know it was a good show back then, no doubt about that for others. But for me, it was a traumatizing experience. I just saw that winning was everything to the football Panthers in some school in Texas somewhere. In Texas, is all about if you win more football games, the spirit of Texas would be more up. And there's a lot of religion involved in this. But aside from the religion part, all I care about is talking about the problems with coach abuse. I've been seeing a lot of that with other athletes, and one of them was telling them to shut their mouths, and they claim that they love these guys, they love their teammates, and yet they act mean and jerks, and they're acting really hard on these guys, all because that they're human and they're making mistakes on the football field, and then that's okay, and then that shouldn't be an issue. I was on Instagram the other day. I saw some football pictures, and I was mentioning on the comment section that I saw some coach abuse on there, and one of them assumed. I don't even know this guy's name. I don't even know who this guy is. I don't care, because he told me that if I had done more research on it, then I'll be able to. He thought I didn't do any research on it, but I did some research today just to prove him wrong, whoever he is, or if anyone who agrees with me on this, then you post your comments down below. It's this article that I found downstairs in the basement. I copied it and pasted it on my Microsoft Word, and it's called "Coaching Abuse: The Not So Little Secret in Sports." And to prove it to you, I had to copy and paste the link so you'll know where I got it from. It's called www.competitiveedge.com, and it says "Coach Abuse: the dirty, not so little secret in sports." You know, I'll be reading this research along the way. It's going to be a very long video and I'll be looking at the screen right here. Since it'll help me, I'll be able to speak a little bit better. Without it, I might not be able to say it properly. You might take it out of context and all that. To those of you who love football, who love to watch it, who are coaching it, who are participating in it, you might not want to hear this, because there's a lot of truth to this, and you might not be able to handle it. So if you can't handle it, and if you don't like it, get off the video. Don't watch it. I'm just stating what I've researched. It's going to be a long one. It has like 14 pages on here. And I'm going to be reading it in 3, 2, 1. What is wrong with a society that places so much importance on winning in sports that blatantly neglects the needs and well-being of the athletes that it's charged with educating and protecting? Are we that out of touch that we've lost our perspective on what really matters in life? Are too many parents making a deal with the devil and turning their kids over to coaches with questionable methods just because these coaches supposedly produce champions? As a coach, just how important is winning to you? When your team or athletes win, does that mean that you are doing your job better? Does it make you a more effective coach? Similarly, when your athletes fail, does that mean you are failing? Are your athletes failing? Are your athletes and teams losing concrete evidence of your incompetence? This is just some guy saying it, just letting you know. If you were... Sorry, there's a phone ringing. If you were brutally honest with yourself, could you look in the mirror and answer this question? This is all from the research article. This is not scripted. I'm just reading it so I'll be able to speak more clearly. Is winning and all that it means to me more important than the mental health and happiness of my athletes? If you're a coach reading this, then I couldn't blame you for responding to my question with horror and righteous indignation. Who the heck am I to even suggest that you, an adult and professional, would place your needs to be successful over the needs of your young athletes? Of course you know that the sport is supposed to be all about the kids. Certainly you are fully aware that it's only a game. You also know that coaching is all about being a good role model, enhancing self-esteem and building character. Furthermore, you know that your number one priority is the self-aware and happiness of the athletes you coach. A coach doesn't have to be a rocket scientist to know all this stuff. But then again, who would ever answer yes to my question and admit to themselves and others that they regularly place their own needs as an adult and professional over those athletes they're supposed to be guiding? Here's the problem, the way I see it. This is just from him, his words, not mine, just letting you know. Because winning has become so important to us as a culture, because being numero uno has been erroneously equated with coaching success and competence, some of our youth sport, club, high school, and college coach have forgotten what their real mission as a professional is. This also happens in other sports companies like NFL, NBA, you name it. These coaches have come to mistakenly believe that the one-loss outcome of their season is far more important than the process of participation, character development, and safety of their athletes. They believe that an athlete's performance failure is reflective of a coaching failure, and why shouldn't they feel this way when coaches at every level are regularly criticized and fired for not winning enough? When it comes right down to it, though, isn't the true essence of good coaching winning? Isn't it what NFL Hall of Fame coach Vince Lombardi used to say? Winning isn't the most important thing. It's the only thing. Unfortunately, when coaches subscribe to this creed, when they put their needs to win in front of their athletes' well-being and learning, then serious problems develop. I'm pragmatic speech issues, I'm sorry. Interactions with coaches who believe that the end always justifies the means, that the outcome of winning is far more important than the process of teaching and playing, do significant long-term damage to young athletes. When winning is more important to the coach than the experience of his or her athletes' participation, then emotional and sometimes physical and verbal abuse are the end result. Verbal, physical, and emotional abuse. Quite common for coaches. There are a lot of... I'm reading this next part now. There are a lot of coaches who may vehemently disagree with me and defend their treatment of athletes as good, solid coaching. They explain that they're just making their athletes mentally tougher and physically stronger. You know, it's the old, if you baby them, praise them too much, or falsely build self-esteem, then you're really hurting the athletes because you're making them weak. The weak argument. Or, I may occasionally put my athletes down in the process of coaching, but I only do it strategically to get them to tough it out and prove me wrong. Deep down, I really do care about them. Then there's my favorite. His words, not mine, just letting you know. This is a very hard dog-eat-dog competitive world where bosses yell at their employees and everyone has to learn to deal with getting his self-esteem regularly stomped upon. I'm just teaching these athletes how to handle it now. Unfortunately, when coaches subscribe to this creed, when they put their needs to win in front of their athletes' well-being and learning, then the serious problems develop. Interactions with hold on. Oops, I didn't mean to go up there. My bad. Here are my thoughts on this kind of good coaching. If it looks like a duck, flies like a duck, swims like a duck, and quacks like a duck, it's a duck. Abuse is abuse, regardless of what kind of spin you put on it. Abuse is not good coaching, even when it results in winning. Next part here. Athletes who play for coaches who are more concerned with their own needs than those of their players. The players may occasionally experience outward success if they manage to stay in the sport long enough. These athletes may be part of a winning team or championship effort. They may even win gold medals. However, the emotional price that these athletes end up paying in the long run for their success is an extremely high one. The damage that abusive coaches can do to preadolescent and adolescent athletes or adult athletes oftentimes haunts them well enough into adulthood or older in the future, negatively shaping their future performance experiences and relationships both in and out of the competitive sports. Depression, anxiety, low self-esteem, identity issues, and recurring performance problems are often the result of this kind of negative coaching. Abusive coaching is a serious epidemic in our society, and it's time the responsible adults, i.e., other coaches, level-headed parents, and competitive professionals, step up to the plate and drive this garbage out of the ballpark once and for all. In this special issue, okay, that was an interesting article part, and it's going to go more. What is abusive coaching? A good place for us to start our discussion is to clearly define what abuse coaching is and how it differs from more appropriate positive coaching. To do this, let's look at the behaviors and actions of the abusive coach and compare them with those of the good coach. And here's the following of the abusive coach fits in any number of the following. This is just from the article, just letting you guys know. Regularly uses public embarrassment and humiliation on his or her athletes. Is disinterest in the feelings and sensitivities of his or her players. Rarely uses praise or positive feedback. Is a yeller. Demeans his or her players. Plays head games with his or her athletes. Is personally dishonest and untrustworthy. Creates a team environment based on fear and devoid of safety. Is never satisfied with what his or her athletes do. Is overly negative and a pro at catching athletes doing things wrong. Is more interested in his or her needs than those of his or her players. Overemphasizes the importance of winning. Tends to be rigid and over-controlling, defensive, and angry. Is not open to constructive feedback from players or other parents. Uses excessive conditioning as punishment. Can be physically abusive. Ignores his or her athletes when angry or displeased. Is a bully and therefore a real coward. Coaches through fear and intimidation. Is a know-it-all. Is a poor communicator. Only cares about his or her athletes as performers, not as individuals. Consistently leaves his or her athletes feeling badly about themselves. Kills his or her athletes' joy and enthusiasm for the sport. Is a bad role model. Is emotionally unstable and insecure. Earns contempt from players and parents. Coaches through guilt. Is a master of denial. A coach doesn't have to be guilty of all these behaviors to be an abusive coach. In fact, regularly engaging in a select 2 or 3 of these is enough to qualify a coach for abuser status. Unfortunately, most coaches who engage in abuse also refuse to take an honest look at themselves because of the well-honed sense of denial they would never admit to themselves or others that they might be doing something wrong. In fact, the abusive coach sees him or herself as a very good coach. Now here's a good coach. Never humiliates or embarrassment as a coaching tool. Genuinely cares about the welfare and well-being of each athlete. Is a pro at catching athletes doing things right, rarely raising his or her voice. Is supportive and encouraging. Builds healthy relationships with his or her athletes, is honest and trustworthy, creates a feeling of personal safety on the team, is able to celebrate his or her athletes' success and accomplishments, is a positive person, understands that coaching is about doing what's best for the kids or the athletes, has winning in perspective and defines success in appropriate ways, tends to be flexible, yet still able to set good limits. Is open to constructive feedback from players and parents, is friendly, non-defensive, and approachable. Uses hard physical conditioning appropriately, is never physically abusive, communicates displeasure directly and appropriately towards athletes, Coaches, by generating mutual respect, maintaining an open mind, is a good communicator, leaves his or her athletes feeling good about themselves, fuels the athlete's enjoyment and enthusiasm for the sport, is a wonderful role model, earns respect from the players and parents, and does not act out his or her feelings, insecurities on his or her athletes. One of the distinguishing characteristics of the abusive coach is that deep down, she generally doesn't care about her athletes as individuals. This kind of coach only values his or her players in direct proportion to the athlete's abilities and what she can do for the coach. The abusive coach pays more attention to the better athletes as long as these individuals continue to produce for him or her. As long as they win, she likes them. However, should they get injured or slip into a slump, this coach is quick to turn against or ignore them. In a sense, the abusive coach is not emotionally mature enough to separate out his own feelings and needs from those of his or her athletes. While the abusive coach may deny this, her behaviors and actions more accurately reflect on how she really feels. It would be easy for us to look at this behavior and label it as selfish. However, calling the abusive coach selfish doesn't capture what is actually going on here. Deep down, the abusive coach is a damaged human being. She is emotionally stunted and immature. The abusive coach usually suffers from deep-seated feelings of inadequacy, and she unknowingly acts these feelings out on his or her athletes. Unlike healthier human beings, the abusive coach is not able to take an honest look at his or her own behaviors. This individual is too busy defending himself or herself and blaming others. The abusive coach is a pro at playing head games and manipulating others. she is able to convince her players that his or her frustration, yelling, anger, and bad behavior are all their fault. If the players behaved better, did what they were told, performed at a higher level, listened to the coaching, then the coach wouldn't have to get upset, lose his or her temper, or act the way she had. And this is the way of the abusive coach. Never takes responsibility for his or her bad behavior. Like all abusers, she is good at convincing the victims that it is the way who should feel guilty and responsible. This is not unlike the behavior of a 4-year-old who says, "You made me do this." Let's meet Mark. Now, okay, I am done with this video. I'm going to go to the second part later, and this is going to be a story about an abusive coach named Mark through the eyes of an athlete named Jenny. So, if you like this first part of my research, my first research on coach abuse, post your comments down below and give your thoughts about it on Facebook or Instagram or Messenger, whatever, or post your own video experience on YouTube. If there are anyone else who disagree with it, press the dislike button and post your comments down below. And if you don't like this video, I suggest you don't watch it. I'm not trying to offend anybody. I'm just telling you what I discovered from this researched article. Please don't take it personally. My heart is in the right place. I'm just trying to expose the problems with coach abuse in all situations, whether it's schools, college, actual sport companies like NFL, NBA, you name it. Doesn't really matter. This will be the second part. The second part will be about Mark and Jenny and their issues with the coach abuse and all that stuff. Until then, I'm Matthew Optimus. Peace the Fro out.